This book right here made me think I needed a drink. So there are a lot of books from the 20th century that are considered to be classics, such as Catch 22, The Catcher in the Rye, 1984, etc., that I can readily and apparently recognize why they have attained that status. I understand why they are considered to be classics. However, there are other books from the 20th century that are also held to be classics where I just do not get it at all. And this book right here was one such case, Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry. Now, this book is usually placed pretty highly in the ranks of 20th century literature. And so my masochistic ass just had to read it at some point, and this was one of the most boring, tedious, and ultimately pointless things I think I have ever read. Like I said, I do not understand the acclaim that this book gets because I don't think this book accomplished anything. But anyway, what actually is Under the Volcano about? What is the plot of this book? Well, there is precious little of it. This book takes place over the course of one day, the Day of the Dead, 1938, in the life of Jeffrey Furman, a British consul who is stationed in Mexico in Cuernavaca, or as I believe it's referred to most often now as Cuernavaca. And he is an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic, like cirrhosis of the liver level alcoholic. And his estranged wife, Yvonne, comes back to him on this day, the Day of the Dead, 1938, to try to salvage their marriage, to try to rescue their relationship or what remains of it. And also, his brother Hugh lives, or half brother, I guess, lives with him. And the plot of this book, they walk around and they talk, very little of it meaningful at all, and they drink some alcohol, and he drinks a lot of alcohol. And then he gets killed at the end by the police, and his wife gets trampled to death by a horse. And that's the book. Yes, I spoiled it. I feel no shame in doing that because I don't think this book contains anything that's worthy of not spoiling. And if I can dissuade you from wasting your time reading this crap like I did, I will count this video a success. So, this is a modernist book. I'm no stranger to modernism. Last year I read James Joyce's Ulysses. I've read The Sound and the Fury. I've read Light in August. I've read To the Lighthouse. I've read Mrs. Dalloway. I'm no stranger to this style of writing, but now, after having read this, I can officially say that modernism just ain't my cup of tea. I did not like this book. I did not enjoy this book. And this whole style of writing, it's just not for me. But let's talk about that. So, this book, the way this book is written, I'm not going to say that it's badly written. Rather, I will just say that I could not stand the way that it was written. It was infuriating to me reading this book. So when I read what I like in literature and when I write, what I like are clear sentences with an apparent sense of direction and momentum, and ideally the least amount of commas and semicolons and colons possible. I like a certain conciseness to my sentences, and that does not describe this book in the slightest. There is nary a single sentence like that to be found in Under the Volcano. So, as I said, this book is a modernist text, and it relies, as most of those books did, on stream of consciousness and very convoluted sentences, and I just don't get down with that. I could not stand how this book was written. So the sentences in this book are ridiculously convoluted. I mean, absurdly convoluted. Some of these sentences go on for like a whole page, and there are I'm going to say hundreds of thousands of commas probably in this book. I mean, he uses so many commas, and these sentences, uh, it's kind of an unintentional callback almost to like the Scarlet Letter. If you've ever read the Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, you'll know that the way that book is written, the sentences start out saying something, and then there will be a subordinated clause where it will say something else, and then there'll be another subordinated clause that'll say something else, and then it kind of just it's like a Russian nesting doll. It just goes down and down and down, and then by the time it comes back around to the initial thing that it said, you don't even remember what that was, and so you have to go back and reread the whole thing just to get the meaning of it. I cannot freaking stand that. And this book was written like that. These sentences are so overlong and, like I said, convoluted that it was just a pain to read. And also, this dude uses punctuation in ways that I have never seen it used. And I think you could probably argue incorrectly. For one, he uses colons like nobody I have ever seen. Like, there are so many colons in this, just apparently inserted in here at random. And the end dashes, good lord, the end dashes in this are just like, I don't understand the logic behind using this punctuation. And again, I think you could really make a case that he uses some of it incorrectly in this. But anyway, the writing, I won't say it's bad because I recognize that some people might respond to um, this style of writing, but I ain't those people. This was just, again, infuriating to me and grating to read. Couldn't stand the writing. Now, the characters in this are good. I will give it that. Since this is a book that relies on stream of consciousness to develop its characters, they dang well better be good, and they did suffice. The consul is a pretty well-rounded character. He's just debilitatingly alcoholic, and you get a good sense of just how pathetic and at rock bottom he really is. But also, you kind of get the brief strivings in him that he occasionally displays of trying to do better and wanting more than what he is, wanting to be more than what he is, and to do better. So he's a pretty good character, and his wife, estranged wife Yvonne, is also a pretty good character. She is a former actress uh, who is estranged from him, obviously, and trying to save their marriage. And she still loves him, but she knows what he is and how he is, and so there's some friction there. And then his brother Hugh is like an armchair revolutionary kind of. He's a political radical, a journalist, and who writes about like the Spanish Civil War. And you get a good sense of him, his aspirations, his kind of delusions of grandeur a little bit. In fact, one of the only good times in this book, one of the only instances that I can say I actually kind of enjoyed to reading is when the consul just kind of goes off on him when they're having this kind of debate or discussion at least about world events and politics, and then the consul just kind of goes off on him, and he's like, "You bitch about capitalism so much, but you stay here and live off of it, and like I said, you're just an armchair revolutionary. You talk so much about communism, but you only ever look out for yourself." That was actually a good part in the book because it demonstrated some actual emotion, and the emotion in this book is seriously muted for the majority of its runtime. But there are occasional flashes of real emotion, and those were maybe this book's only saving grace. Like when the consul is looking at his wife and she's laying in bed, and he's wanting to be better for her so that he can save their marriage because they still love each other, but he's just kind of dead weight. And so you get some lines coming from his mind where he's lamenting the fact that he is so pathetic and addicted, and that was actually kind of moving a little bit. And then also there's a part in here where the consul says what I guess is like a prayer when they're in this little church thing, I think, and he says this kind of prayer thing while they're looking at the little icons, and it's him trying to be better. He's like, let me he said something like, "I've fallen so low, but let me sink lower yet, so that I may know what like the true depths of despair is, so I can come back and be better." It's actually that part was actually pretty moving. That actually did kind of hit me. But those instances are few and far between in this, and what you get mostly is just rambling, again, convoluted sentences describing things and small talk and banter about stuff. There's a lot of discussion in here about the Spanish Civil War and, fascism, communism, all that. But I don't really think that ever comes to much. And so I, I think this book is ultimately just intended to be some kind of character study of alcoholic despondence. And I don't, that's all I got out of it. I seriously, when you write a book, I think the question in your mind whenever you're writing a book is to say, what am I doing here? What is the point of writing this? What am I trying to accomplish? What am I trying to say? And I don't really know what the answer to that question is with Under the Volcano, because it didn't really seem to say a lot, unless, like I said, it's just a character study about an alcoholic, in which case it has moments of occasional power, but by and large, it's just tedious and boring. And this is a book, though. This is a book where people will tell you it's like one of the most profound and enlightening things ever. But then if you ask them what the actual meaning is, they'll just avert their eyes and mumble something about the human condition and, despair and lost dreams and what have you. And they'll say, but this book has Kabbalah in it. It's got Kabbalah and it has numerology. Yes, there is some numerology in this book. The number of the chapters is 12, like there's 12 hours in a day, and there's some discussion of like the Sephiroth, however it's pronounced, of the Kabbalah. The consul is kind of an amateur occultist. And so there's some of that, but it's not like that lends any actual meaning to the book in and of itself. But people will be like, but it's got like the Kabbalah in it. It's so deep. No, it's not. There's not really anything, I don't think, too terribly deep about this. I don't see that there's any ulterior meaning to this. There's like a horse in this that is continually referred to that has the number 7 branded on its hip. And 7 in Christianity is a mystical number. And like they're like, the horse represents death. It's the pale horse. Well, I don't know. I don't care. This book didn't interest me enough to suck me into trying to dissect every last little bit of symbolism, because all the whatever symbolism this may contain, and there is some biblical stuff. There's a part where he's in his garden, and there's a little snake that goes across the path, garden snake. You can't, it's pretty on the nose at that point. But whatever symbolism this contains, all the numerology, it doesn't save the fact that this book is boring as hell, unengaging, and I just think kind of pointless. I don't understand why people. I just drool over this book. I don't get it at all. It didn't do anything for me. I couldn't stand the way it was written, and it did not stimulate me intellectually. I did not find it particularly moving emotionally, and I damn sure didn't find it entertaining. So this book was just a complete miss almost for me. And I'm done with this modernist horse shit after this. I'm like I said, I read Ulysses, Sound and the Fury, Light in August, To the Lighthouse, Mrs. Dalloway, out of all, and then this, and out of all those books, the only one of those books that actually impressed me, or that actually resonated with me, that actually hit me and did anything for me, was To the Lighthouse. If you read only one modernist book, just let it be that and call it a day, because I don't think this is worth reading. I don't even think this was worth writing. I don't think it accomplishes anything. So yeah, to rate Malcolm Lowry's Under the Volcano, I'm giving this a D plus. The writing Some people might like it, but I think it was just obnoxious and retarded. And I think you can seriously make the case that a lot of the punctuation in this is incorrect and just haphazard. And also, um, the story, just what story there is just so boring as hell. Nothing happens, and the characters, like I said, are good enough, but that's about it. And yeah, this book was just awful, I think. So, Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry, D plus. I hope that this is the last modernist book that I read, or at least for some time. But yeah, Under the Volcano, let me know down in the comments what you thought about Under the Volcano, if you have read it, whether you have agreed or disagreed with anything I've said about it here today. I can almost guarantee there will be some fanboys coming out of the woodwork to dispute me and say, no, you completely missed the point. This book is so deep. Well, then tell me what the point was, because I don't think this book had a point. It has to be it has to be more than just a character study of an alcoholic to earn the level of acclaim in my eyes that this book has. So tell me what the point is if I've missed it. And yeah, if you haven't read Under the Volcano, avoid this like the plague. I think this book is just absolutely freaking awful, and I would not recommend this to my worst enemy. So yeah, and as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.